All right, so my computer did an update last night, which meant that the microphone got taken off of the settings. I don't know why Windows has to do that every single time, but I'll catch myself maybe 1 out of 10 times and look over at the audio meter and it's not going, and it's because the driver's been updated. But with that said, I woke up this morning with the usual grievances. So I was watching the philosophical gamer who apparently liked my comment about single men. And the gripe that I've had with it in the last couple of days is that the world isn't designed for single men. In fact, my first thing that I wrote today was single men is directly correlated with being a loser. Because if you can't get a girl, obviously you're not a real man. So, the stigma of singleness. Society tends to equate being a single man with failure, labeling them as losers as if they lack markers of success like a career or a house or a partner. Single men are often seen as unmotivated or undesirable regardless of the systemic challenges they face. That is a problem in a society that only values people who are extremely successful while making certain that everyone who's not extremely successful feels terrible about themselves. Yesterday, I was watching a guy interviewing someone at the Staten Island Amazon plant, which is enormous, 15 football fields. And what this guy had to say about working in this place is that the accident rate and overall quality of work has diminished greatly throughout the years, especially in the last 5 years. It's just been a straight line down. This has meant that men are working in places like this, and you're never going to make a living if you're working in an Amazon facility and you're making those tiny child sized paychecks. It's just not humanly possible. When a paycheck is designed by wicked people in corporate offices to make certain that those people can't earn a living while employing them full time and giving them extra crappy benefits, there's something systemically wrong in our society. Which leads me to my second talking point. And there are a total of four, five talking points. So we're moving on to our second talking point here. And I mentioned this one yesterday because it's a big one to me because of where I live and how disgusting it is. So the affordable housing option for single men are almost non-existent. Many are forced to live with parents not because of laziness, but due to skyrocketing rent, stagnant wages, and a lack of tailored housing solutions. Developers focus on family homes or luxury apartments. I have been saying that on this channel for many years. When you walk around your city and you see the construction projects, they're all tailored towards incredibly wealthy people. Yesterday, when I was leaving Walmart, after not buying anything there because they didn't have anything I wanted, I was coming around the corner around the Quick Trip and I looked over and there's an apartment complex that looks like mansions. It's an apartment complex full of mansions. And you're just kind of look at it and you're like, who can afford to spend $5,000 a month when your regular Johnny A-hole only pulls down around $2,000 a month? That's what my Gen Z makes. And as I've said this before, my Gen Zers at this job make around anywhere, a starting pay is about $18 an hour. And so that means they're making around $2,000 a month, and rent on average is $1,800 a month. Who has $5,000 a month in order to live there? And that's the problem that I see everywhere I drive around to is that they only make housing for people who can afford it. Everyone else who has to take that job working at that Amazon warehouse is expected to live in low cost housing, meaning the projects. That guy, what was it? Taton London, the guy that makes a ton of money now on YouTube. In that video where he's pushing shopping carts at Walmart, he talks about the only way that he can afford to live while working full time at Walmart is in low income housing. What else is associated with low income housing? Low education, low availability of food, everything at the bottom. So it seems that, and again, There's just two classes of people. There's the very rich who can afford to spend $5,000 a month to live in those luxury apartments. And then there's everyone else that's either going to live where I live, where you don't want to live, or low cost housing. And a lot of single men, because they can't share their bills with a significant other, are forced to live with the indignity of having more pets than you would like. Let's just call it that way. All right, talking point number three, dead end jobs. Many men are stuck in jobs with no career advancement or skill building opportunities, just like myself. Everyone on this channel who's left a comment like, well, why don't you get a better job? To do what? My current job isn't applicable to any type of other technology job that I've ever had. It's one part technology, one part operations, one part HR, one part accounts payable, one part um, property control management, one part driving to sites for tech support, managing 25 locations. Like, this job isn't like this isn't something you look at in the newspaper. It's like, oh wow, fry cook. No, it's a really strange job, and there is no career advancement when you're the only person in an entire corporation that does this job. There's no career advancement. Where am I going to go? Become a senior level whatever job I have, my whatever my current title is. I've never actually been able to figure out what my title actually is because it's not applicable. They just gave me the title of every other person that works in the same area because they didn't know what to call it. And since then, there has been no promotions and just more responsibilities added to the job on paper without any extra money. And you're just kind of like, what is this? I mean, am I a slave? I mean, I scratch my head sometimes and wonder, you know, a slave obeys, a man chooses, and I obey a lot. So, companies exploit the single man by offering low wages and treating them as expendable labor. Everywhere you go in the city, you're going to find single men working in the crappiest places. And you know where I see the most single men? At the car wash. And luckily, the car wash that I go to that's in front of Sprouts, almost everyone that works there is white, which is really strange because if you drive across the street to cobblestone, all the people that are out there drying cars are not white. But I guess since they don't dry out cars, all they do is maintain the place, that they don't really need people who do just plain straight up manual labor. But every one of those guys is a minimum wage worker. They've had a few girls working in there. I think they had an Elizabeth working there for a while, 6+ months, and God, does she get skinny. I mean, when I would look at this girl, I would just like want to push out like a Subway sandwich into her mouth because she was so skinny. Like you could see the outlines in her chest bones would show through her uniform. And you're like, oh my God. You know what, that skinny? That's not from wanting to be skinny. That's from not being able to afford to eat. There's two different kinds of skinny in this world. And poor people, they don't have the best nutrition, best access to food. If you're only going to get like $100 of food stamps and it's supposed to last you 30 days, that means you're going to be dependent on about $1.50 a day on food. So, anyhow, let's move on to our talking point number four. Let's see. Oh no, let's go over this one. I didn't see this bullet point. This lack of financial security exasperates other challenges like housing and relationships. And I'm going to add food onto this because there's three things that financial insecurity makes worse: housing, your ability to connect with other people, transportation, because I've come to believe that the transportation for single men in this world, since they don't have good jobs, is the city bus. And if you want to be labeled as being the biggest loser in our society, try being a single man riding the city bus to work. I did it for 20 years, and every day I could feel the judgment from the bus driver, from the women on the bus, and the other men who just put their heads down and acknowledge the fact that this is it, man. This is all there is. There's never going to be a path to buying a car while you're working a job with no career advancement. So it just makes you the depression of being a single man and being in that situation, knowing that every week you need to buy a bus pass. Also, the judgment when you go and you buy this bus pass, whether it's at a Circle K or at a Kroger's, is like the cashier looks at you. It's like even I can afford to buy that piece of crap jalopy car that's sitting in front of the store, and you're buying a bus pass, especially when I did the kind of work that I do. They're like, well, don't you work in that really nice office building? Yeah, but it pays it pays $17 an hour, so it doesn't matter. $17 an hour isn't going to get you a car when rent's $1,800 a month. All right, so we are moving now to talking point number 4. Financial instability and societal expectations make it harder for single men to pursue meaningful relationships. And you know why you're a single man? Because you can't pursue meaningful relationships. And one of the points that this guy made that I was watching yesterday on The Last Angry Man on being single is that often as a single man, you have to work the shifts that no one else wants, right? You're working nights, you're working weekends. And so when you have time off, no one else does. You work holidays, you work all the crappy schedules that you can possibly imagine, often doing opening and closing shifts, depending on sometimes they'll just stick you on a shift because someone else quit or they're on vacation or they're on medical leave and suddenly you're stuck in that shift even though you got used to being awake all night. For me, one of the hardest things to do, and it was actually part of one of the nightmares that I was having last night, is when I first started working at Walmart, I had never stayed up past 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I always went to bed early because I had to get up early in order to go to school. And so when I had to start working till 2 o'clock in the morning, after 10 o'clock, the first week, I started becoming delusional from the schedule. Like, I started having in store hallucinations because your body gets used to a rhythm of when you do things, right? Like, my body knows that in half an hour, I'm going to be lifting heavy. It knows that already. It's been doing it for years, it's been doing it my entire adult life. You're going to be lifting heavy. Your body prepares itself. So does your body prepare itself to go to sleep. And when you're working these strange hours and you know the reason is because other members of the same work group will say, well, I have to be home with my kids. I've heard that my entire life. It's like, well, I have kids, so I need to be able to leave early today. I have kids, so I can't work weekends. I have kids, so I can't stay late. But all the single guys, they just look at you like, I know you don't have anywhere to be. Modern dating often emphasizes financial status and housing stability as prerequisites for commitment. Absolutely. If she comes over to your roach infested apartment and you're getting it on and she gets a roach that jumps on her back, suddenly that's the last date you're ever going to have. I've actually had people tell me that. It's like, I don't want to come over to your house. You have roaches. And I mean, Jesus Christ, that's disgusting. I'm going to have to do something about that tomorrow. Ironically, it's Sunday and they're not open today. And for some reason, this new management company wants you to have a pre-destined code in order to be able to open an account to make maintenance requests, which I haven't been able to get around to. Let's see. Emotional and mental health issues tied to loneliness and societal pressures further alienate single men. This is something I try to talk about on this channel all the time, is that mental health and being a single man has been on display in the media now for all the wrong reasons for the past few years. Think back to Columbine. Were those mentally stable men? No. And I know that it's not always men, but most men who are forced into being single because they have very much so undesirable traits. And I'll tell you guys, no woman in their right mind would date any of my broccoli haired Gen Zs that I've had over the past few years. They're broke, they're living at home, they can't take you out, uh, they can't afford to eat. These guys are completely strange. Their personalities are odd. They can't communicate. They can't have good eye contact. They have nothing to say. I mean, it goes on and on. The mental health issues with Gen Z men is incredible. The most broken generation of men that I have ever met in my entire life. And yet, guess what? They're still lonely. They're still people. They still need love, the kind of love that you get behind a Taco Bell, but everyone needs love. So, moving on to talking point number 5. Single men are rarely considered in policymaking or urban planning, leaving them behind in a world designed for families. Again, something I said yesterday. Where's the single men housing in our society? Where's there a shack with a hole in the back? No running water, no flush toilet, just a shack. Maybe a 10 by 10 shack with a hole behind it and a cot? That's single men housing, in my opinion. And we can't get that because guess what? You don't want to build that kind of housing in your area. The same way you don't want to have trailer parks in your area, you don't want to have single men housing. Because single men, I don't know what it is about them, but society definitely has, I'm going to call it an eggplant for them. And they just don't like you. And as a person who's had to live with that attitude towards myself my whole life, as being a single man my whole life, it's like you kind of wonder, it's like, why did society become like this? Because successful people have families. The fact that success and being a single man do not even come close to being similar to one another, like you're never going to look at a TV commercial where there's just a single man sitting at a bench looking at a camera looking pathetic and sad. No, our advertisements, our social media is full of diverse groups of people, people who would never really hang out with each other. You know, you've got every color under the rainbow of uh, nationalities all sitting at some sort of event or at a kitchen or at a picnic table, all celebrating, all drinking Coke and driving, I don't know, a Lexus sports utility vehicle, but they all had that look on their face like they're enjoying their best life. And then you walk into an Amazon warehouse and you look around at the people there. They don't look like the people in the commercials. Not at all. Because commercials have to sell you on what they believe that you want to see. I mean, look at any beer commercial, right? Chicks in bathing suits, ordinary guys, people watching Pro Ball, people having a good time, laughing. There's no one sitting by themselves thinking about their financial problems and wondering, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't pay my bills. In fact, this morning in one of my nightmares, I was thinking about this. Bills are like cleaning, right? Bills are the dirty things in your life. All your financial responsibilities are the filth in your life, and work gives you the soap to clean it up. Unfortunately, there's way more filth than you have soap. So at the end of the day, you run out of soap and you have to deal with the filth. That's really what it comes down to. I don't know why my mind put that analogy together, but it felt very real at the time. All right, my final talking point here is going to be single men are rarely considered. Oh, no, I already did that. Mental health resources and community building incentives often overlook this group, perpetuating isolation and a sense of failure. Do I come on here every day and perpetuate a sense of success? Of course I don't. I am the ultimate failed human being. I go to work, I come home, I drink. That isn't perpetuating a sense of success. I don't know what you're supposed to do as a single man when you get home. I mean, maybe shake hands with the governor, maybe watch some pro sports, maybe hang out with Susie for 15 minutes. I don't really know what you're supposed to do. I've never had a normal life as a single man. I just come home and do the same thing over and over again. And every day I get more frustrated and angry at the world. And believe me, I've been very angry at the world in the last few days. The holidays bring out the worst in angry single men because you have to witness the entire world having a good time while you sit in your dank apartment drinking your pro beer, staring at a monitor while you become infuriated with the world that has been hell bent on making certain that you enjoy the misery of the holidays alone. and that you know that loneliness will never stop.